guys. I was groomed and raped throughout my adolescence and teen years. And naturally, I have CPTSD. Wow, I'm really close here. You're supposed to get close, but that's a little close and personal for me. Anyway, I am Linda K. Gifford, and I became a neurolinguistic practitioner after over 20 years of my own therapy and counseling and finding what didn't work and what did work, and becoming a neurolinguistic practitioner just recent, well, for a long time, but now I am. And I am so blown away, as I was saying yesterday, that I have been asked personally by Joyce M. Short, who founded the Consent Action, I always say that, the Consent Awareness Network, to define, she defined, and has been the leader, the only person, the person on top of the decades-long push to legislate consent. And a few days ago, she called me up and explained to me the importance of consent legislation. And so we're going to start there. But I also promised is not the right word, but I said that today I have to tell you what happened to me. Now, I've been talking to you for 3 years on here. I've been doing live streams. I refer to things offset, a little bit here and there, in my book, which actually has become 2 books, because they were changing the name of wanted me to change the name of my book, because it's all about the SPADES program, and it's like, and then I was told, you need to write the book about what happened to you, and I'm like, I wasn't what I was doing, but if I am going to be an ambassador, more or less, for the Consent Action Network, then I am going to go in front of lawmakers and senators and governors and whoever will listen and tell them why the consent laws need to be changed. Not changed, they need to exist. Consent laws need to exist. So I'm going to explain consent laws to you first, and then I'm going to see if I can actually end to end. I've literally never just said out loud, beginning to end, what happened in my life, what my life story is. And that is what self-talk will now be about. And Surviving Spades, 6 Steps from Trigger to Happy, is the workshop. It's already what I call the workshop. They're like, duh, that's the book. It's good to have publicists. In fact, I'm so honored because it was just a coincidence, but it turns out that the publicist that I sought and who has accepted me, look for the Kickstarter soon, because as I said yesterday, it's pay to play, but I'm very honored because the largest publisher of self-help books in the world, Bradley Group, is going to publish my book. And we've been working on it for over 2 years. I've been taking every bit of advice and turning out what I hope will be a useful guide. It's not going to be long. It's not going to be short. It's going to be the Bible, just like for me, The Courage to Heal. Do I have it here? It's probably up. It's in the other room, I think. But The Courage to Heal is a classic book that most of us were given when we first got into sexual assault counseling. And I'm going to throw in, like I do every day, here's the part, sexual assault counseling. See what I did there? I didn't call it sexual abuse, because sexual abuse sounds light. Abuse, it's not good, but it's not assault. And rape, putting your penis in a little child or anybody else against their will or without their consent, or because you groomed them on their heads messed up because you literally made their brains grow differently. That is not consent. And the way the law is set up, if you are arrested for being a sex worker, even if you were trafficked, even if you were stolen, trafficked, brainwashed, groomed, as long as you weren't kicking and screaming, it's not considered a crime. It's considered consensual. And if someone tricks you, which actually happened to Joyce Short, and please go look at the Consent Action Network and please read Joyce Short's book on consent. Please read Joyce Short's book on consent. We're going to talk about the definition of it in just a second, but consent is considered to have been given if an adolescent who has been groomed into a lifestyle like I was, it took years. The actual intercourse penetration didn't happen until I was 14. But it started years before. It was a mind fuck. I'm not supposed to cuss, but I just can't think of another word. I'm not even going to put one in for them to edit out. It was just the way it developed. You know it's icky and horrible, but then you know you start getting older and you know it's wrong, so then you start making justifications. And I'm going to get to, this is why it's going to be so, I don't know if I can do it. I'm going to try to tell you my whole life story today after I finish up here. This is the last day on the last S in Spirit in the SPADES program. And I did say we need to talk about beliefs. So let's go there. Support the, not support, it's not about support. It's about go to the Consent Action Network. It's Consent Awareness Network. God damn, I need to stop doing that. ConsentAwareness.net. And they have numbers, they have addresses, they have emails. You just need to tell people that you want there to be consent laws that A, exist, and B, take into account sex trafficking and grooming, and don't let these people off the hook. And yesterday I talked about your personal responsibility. Please go review that. No time for that today. But we will start over, of course, with the program, with the SPADES workshops. I need a 3-week break, though, because we're going to podcast now. And Joyce Short is going to, has agreed to be interviewed on my first podcast, or a podcast. I'm going to say, let's go with number 1. So that's Those Nasty Women Talk, and it's coming up. But the last S in Spirit, we talked about how Spirit, just to review, well, let's review the whole thing. SPADES, S, the shame is not yours. As I said yesterday, I can talk endlessly about this, and I intend to. So, get used to it. The shame is not yours. You need to know that. I talk about how forgiveness is overrated. I talk about where it comes from. Please go review all those. They're in the YouTube library, which is getting caught up. I do not have a personal assistant yet. Really need one. Soon. We're getting close. I'm getting close. But Spirit has 2 sides. It has the part where I talked at length yesterday about religion and how I'm not telling anybody to give up their religion. I'm just saying that embrace the good and the kindness and the potluck dinners, is how we say, and all the fun stuff and the kind stuff and the love stuff. But then you need to change it from within. You need to change it to be not disparaging against women and others, and not commoditizing women and sometimes killing others. I mean, that's just the world we live in. I got very indignant about that yesterday. Again, I'm about to do it. I always say take a moment if you need a moment. I need a moment. Okay, so I need a moment. I'm about to tell my life story, but let's just touch on belief. I said spirit, there's that working at the outside world. And I said there's the inner spirit, which I don't care what your religion is. I don't care if you think there's a life or a bunch of them after this. I'm going to write a science fiction novel that's like, now that we know that there are parallel universes, how about a novel where, like, when you die, everybody was wrong. The Christians, the atheists, everybody was wrong. They're mining our souls. We're breaking rock in another, that's fun. I'm just saying that's like on my bucket list to write that novel. But what I call spirit is a part, I think I just spit. Sorry about that. What I call spirit is, the thoughts in your head, the pictures you can dream up, the music you can play on your instrument, the art you can draw. Please review cognitive behavioral therapy and art yesterday. Actually, probably every week. Yeah, because it's part of everything. Your spirit is the part of you that isn't your body. It's the part of you that if you were unfortunate enough to become a paraplegic tomorrow, that could still enjoy thinking. The thinking part of you is your spirit. I don't care what your religious belief is, again, but just consider that your spirit for working purposes, if no other. Okay, I'm not up for arguments. This isn't a debate, a religious debate. I'm giving you a working tool. You have a body. You are not your body. Your body cannot be ruined. It cannot be, should not be given or taken or bought or sold or commoditized. Your dad should not have the right to decide who you're going to fuck, or your dad and your mom, and millions, if not billions of people. That's their life. They don't have a way out. They don't have the ability to hop on a train out of the Middle East. Again, fix or flee, your religion. If you need out, call RAINN. RAINN will help you. If you're a sexual assault survivor, if you are a victim right now, if you need advice or help, RAINN is 1-800-656-4673. Call RAINN. And it will route you to the closest regional center, and they'll find out what your needs are and work on a plan. Unfortunately, no one can just whip in there and get you right out. But THORN is actually who we report to. Use my chat box. If you don't want to narc out your neighbor, you're afraid you might be wrong. Well, they won't get in any trouble if they're not doing anything wrong. But we have the cyber capabilities. THORN has the cyber capabilities, and we report to them. So you tell me somebody you're suspicious about, it'll be completely anonymous. I will delete who it came from in the chat. I promise you. You can put that down as a legal thing and take me to court if it ever failed. I do not break promises. It's not a thing. But we need the information. We need to go get these people. We need to not just be angry about sex trafficking. We need not to be worried about it down the street. We don't need to just think, isn't that weird the way that guy treats his daughter? Yeah, I feel bad for her. And then go on to your fucking church or your job or your act like nothing's, I keep cussing. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm sorry. I am who I am. You've got to tell. Don't just see something, say something, do something. Do something. I understand the fear. I do. So tell us. Tell Sweet Survivor. SweetSurvivor.com. It's every .com I have goes to the same place. You might have figured that out by now if you're my friend. LindaKGifford.com. Except for LindaGifford.com. I gave it up to buy LindaKGifford.com in May and immediately got bought by a sex ring. So now you can buy Asian girls at LindaGifford.com. And this is why THORN exists. I also have my own cyber people, and we are working to bust it up right now. You tell us if you have a fear, and if there's nothing there, nobody gets in trouble and nobody knows. And if there is, you just saved somebody. You just put somebody's well-being above your fear. Congratulations. That's what you need to do. And that is the E in spades. Educate and advocate. So, I keep putting off what I said I was going to do today, and I have to do, because the Consent Action Network, when I talked to Joyce, we talked for like an hour a few days ago, and she made me understand that everything starts with legislation. Personal healing is great, but if we don't change consent laws, if we don't make people accountable for grooming and raping adolescents and teens, if we hold sex workers, we put them in jail and fine them when they're actually being trafficked. I mean, this is insanity. This is just not looking at reality, just not wanting to face it. So I'm going to get in your face. I'm going to do it for Ken, and I was asked to do it by a woman with 47,000 followers who is going to be on my first podcast in a few weeks. I am just so excited to have this opportunity. Thank you for letting me make a difference in the world, and thank you for me being seen. And belief is just a thought you keep on thinking. Belief, when people tell you you have to believe in your religion, you have to believe in the teachings of your church, what you do then is you study them and you decide, does this make sense or not? Belief, just like love, is not conditional or unconditional. Everyone says, my love for you is unconditional. I'm like, no. I even told my children, my love for you is conditional. Part of me will always love you as your mother. But if you screw over your spouse, I'm on their side. If you rape or hurt somebody, I'm on their side. If I think you're a menace to society, I'm not going to hide you. I will put you away. I taught my kids, I expect you to do well in this world and to help people. I've got a civil engineer who specializes in geological environmental hydroengineering. I've got a business marketing music production master who is now rebuilding Feel Good Fair Trade because he got his master's this summer, and so I gave him Feel Good Fair Trade, which he actually built when I opened my store at the mall back in 2017. John was the one that built that. So now I am free to be a sweet survivor. And belief, you do what you want with belief, as long as, like I said, you do what you want with religion, as long as the clause it always comes back to, it does not disparage against another human being for their gender or their sexuality or their religion. Just freaking get along. Why can't we just all sing Kumbaya? Why can't we just do that? All right. I don't know if I can do this. I've never actually said my life story. I really don't. I'm really kind of scared. Maybe I should just tune out now. Oh my God. Okay. So, I'm Linda K. Gifford. I had a mostly Norman Rockwell upbringing. I had a great life. My father and mother were as decent and wonderful as the day is long. Also artistic and progressive. I mean, even when there were grandchildren in the picture, you know, they always bought natural things. I grew up, we didn't have snacks in the house. We had a case of Coke, and we would drink a Coca-Cola on Sunday with popcorn, watching TV, you know? My dad was a minister who decided to stop being a Methodist minister after 4 children. And because of hypocrisy in the church largely, and because he felt he could make a bigger difference counseling. And my mom, well, full disclosure, because they're dead and I can talk now without embarrassing them. Mom was 16 and Dad's best friend and got pregnant the first time they had sex, and they stayed together for life. And they loved each other, and they had troubles like everybody else. But my dad, long story short, we'll jump to the end and then go back, died with my mother holding him and his face and telling him to go see his sister and his parents, and they still walked holding hands to the lake, and they had a beautiful relationship. What they didn't know was that monsters exist in this world and they can exist in your own backyard. But we'll get there. My own sister, the one not involved sister, totally cut me off. It's a couple months ago. And then then her husband lied about it on social media. It's like, my husband was there. He's like, wow, I used to have respect for my brother-in-law. This brother-in-law, I had so much respect for him, and I love my sister dearly. I'm not mad at her. I'm sorry that she considers me saying, oh, I've got a TED Talk I'm working on now coming up. And she's like, what are you doing a TED Talk for? It's like, I'm looking for something more like, wow, you're doing a TED Talk? What's going on? You know, and then, book? What? And I'm like, I've been trying to say I've been writing this book for almost 3 years. And so to be shut down at every turn yeah, that brings up my fighting spirit. It makes me be like, you need to listen to me. So I deflect. I keep deflecting. Okay. I was a child. I was born a pure white child. Not pure. Please don't get all racial about that. I just mean, I was making a jerk parody. Yeah, this is, someone's like, your makeup is too white. I'm like, I don't have any on. Yeah. L'Oreal Illuminator, though. Just throw the light off the wrinkles. That's what I'm saying. Deflecting again. Okay. Fourth child. Mom and Dad got married. I'm going to have to bullet point this. Mom and Dad got married at 16 and 18. Mom pregnant. After prom, Mom climbed down a ladder with a suitcase that she dropped to the ground. Dad had a duffel bag. They got on an airplane that was leaking fuel and eloped to Texas rather than tell. Although my grandparents adored my father, and that all worked itself out for the rest of our lives. So they went to Texas, and Dad was an MP in the military, and they lived in a dirt floor shack for a little while until a preacher took him in. So Dad became a preacher. And after his 4 years in the military, he went into seminary. And by then, he had 2 kids. They had 2 kids. By the time Mom was 18, she had 2 children, Dean and Lori. And then Donna was born like 5 years later, or not that many, 3.5. And Mom told me she cried when she found out she was pregnant with me, because I am 5.5 years behind Donna. So my dad baptized me, and it was right about the time that he was leaving the church. He had 2 country churches, and he left, and he became, this becomes relevant. I'm almost done with the history there. But so Dad got triple masters was studying triple masters in history, psychology, and ancient history. And I grew up in a very interesting home. So I'm born 4th child. My siblings seem to have like no understanding that like I actually have a life or any of this happened to me. My phone looks like it's about to die. Oh, you know what? I didn't plug it in. That's why I'm about to lose everything. Hang on. I decided to wear my kilt. I decided to go for the family thing since I was going to talk about my life story for the first time. After 3 years of all this work with everybody, book coming out, it's like, okay, here's what happened. So, skipping most of it, but just the things that set me up. They weren't looking for autism then. Clearly, you can probably tell that I am a high-functioning autistic. My father, I went to the preschool at Mizzou as a research rat for, 2 or 3 years. And we were taught to, we were not taught, but we were raised gender non-specific. We had dolls and trucks. People watched us through windows. I was taken out and studied. I had constant IQ tests, and I tested 186, which is evidently pretty high. And so ever after, I had IQ tests all the way through high school. I've been as low as 156, which bummed me out. I've been as high as 186. That's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant, actually. Autistic children are easy to prey upon because we already are masking. We already don't understand what's going on. You know, as much as I was out there, like my sister's curling her hair and putting on makeup, it's like I didn't even do that thing. It wasn't even a thing. I just liked science. Me and my dad got science kits every month and did them. I liked to hike, and I liked marijuana. And I got to be wild because, we'll get there. Okay, let's back up a little. So, I was in that preschool. Then Dad got his first teaching job. He graduated, got his first teaching job in St. Louis. So we moved to Berkeley by the airport. And that's where I went to second grade. Kindergarten, first grade in Columbia, Missouri, because Dad was in school at Mizzou. And I remember riding on Dad's shoulders with my mom in like a maxi dress and a midriff at rallies, for Vietnam and stuff. So then we moved to St. Louis, and we lived in Berkeley for a year. That was second grade. And then we moved to Bridgeton. That was third grade. And then my sister got thrown out of school, my oldest sister, Lori, I think she was on acid. And so Dad and Mom decided that they would move us to the country because it would be so much nicer and safer. Wrong. The country isn't any safer. And now we know what to look for. That's why I'm doing this. You need to look for the people in your world. My parents didn't see it. And I'm pretty sure I killed my dad because of the stress of so many people assuming when they heard that I had been sexually violated as a child that it was my father. No, it was not. My father's amazing, but he had no idea. My mother had no idea, and I wasn't telling. And I didn't tell because I was groomed. And I was groomed from such a young age. I'm the fourth child, okay? My brother was my best friend. And when I was 8 years old, my brother, we played. He let me tag along with him. I would play the albums in his room when he was gone. We would build dominoes, like multiple sets, and run them all over his basement room. He taught me how to play pool. I have a song I wrote about him I can't even get through because it makes me cry, you know? And then he was gone. He was gone. My sisters could give a shit about me. They love me, but in the way of, I love you because you're my sister. I can't remember, and this is why I'm so frustrated with my family, of my sisters especially. I've tried to talk to them for a lifetime, and there's not one time. I mean, I get the birthday card every year, right? But it's not like, how are you? What's going on with any listen? And if you do try to say something, it's countered with, oh, well, this is what blah, blah. And mine is just like, there's no reciprocity. And I'm not sure where that came from. And they say my parents aren't as wonderful as I think they were. And I'm thinking that there's a lapse because I'm so much younger and I had more alone time with my parents and they were more settled down. So I'm sure as young parents, and 2 kids by the time Mom was 18. My mom had 4 kids by the time she was 26 and Dad was 28. And so, yeah, they were hanging on the rail of the caboose, So, so my sister gets pregnant and married. And here's the start of we're not going to call it abuse. We're going to call it assault. It started as abuse, but it ended up being assault. So my sister gets married at 18. In high school, pregnant. My dad's the principal. Gives her a diploma. Either that or the counselor. He was on the stage. And she gets pregnant by this guy, my ex-brother-in-law, who is so much older. I don't even know how much. Honestly, I don't know how old he is. I'm going to say half a dozen years older than her, roughly, give or take. And I know that he likes young girls because after my abuse, even when my niece, who was a baby when I was being assaulted, was graduating from high school, he brought a girlfriend who was just barely out of high school to his daughter's high school graduation with no shame. And that's why I've said before, my assaulter was not a serial predator. He is a person that society teaches it that you can oogle little girls, and if you get them in your clutches, you can have sex with them if you can trick them into it. And then he had the nerve, after my song Little Girl came out on my CD, I got up the nerve to attend my nephew's wedding, and he had the nerve to come up to me and say, "I'm sorry you got caught up in all our shit." And I'm like, that's not an apology. It's not good enough for me. And I found out he's dying of cancer now. And I said, good. And that made my sister mad too, because she's a really loving-hearted Christian. She is the nicest person I know, but not without a fault. She's got faults in that you need to not always be the nicest person you know. You need to be taught to stand up for yourself in this world. And that's what I do for people now, because now I'm a neurolinguistic practitioner and now I understand things. But I am bitterly angry that I spent 30 years of my life, 3 marriages, having sex I don't remember. I remember being there, but I can't remember a single feeling or sensation. Because when you groom somebody, you take away their ability to feel, because they know this is wrong. So they move and they go away. They go away in their mind. And science is backing it up now. Is backing science 100% across the board. If you have CPTSD of any sort, not just childhood sexual assault related, but your amygdala has enlarged and your hippocampus has shrunk, because this amygdala is your fight or flight, and the hippocampus is, I can see it, read it. When you're reading something in your mind and you see the words, that's your hippocampus at work. When you're feeling and you want to jump or flee or respond, that's your amygdala at work. And the neuroscience for everybody now is, you know, the old argument, nurture nature, nurture nature. Well, I'm telling you as a neurolinguistic practitioner that we have learned that every single person is a product of nature and nurture. Your brain develops its pathways, its connectivity based on what you have to do. And if you have to have sex with someone while pretending to be a straight A student, here's me, straight A student, honor society, first seat flautist since my freshman year of high school, sophomore, after my freshman. I wasn't even on speech team, but I won the overall gold medal out of an 8-school competition with 3 people in every category, and beat our school's state competitor out of the semifinals. And I won the overall gold for every category. I succeed. So the people in my life that can't believe, I mean, yeah, I've got 8.coms. I founded seasonalfair.com with my investor friend, and he died. Him and his wife died of COVID. And I changed the name, and I went on to feelgoodfairtrade.com. And then I decided to have all these to raise money for people. So I bought a bunch of .coms. I bought RubySbridge.com. I bought BeastFetus.com. I bought ThoseNastyWomen.com. I still own most of these. UpriseInc.com is just coming out. So I branched into buying women's products, women and community artisans products, and I'm trying to do all this good in the world. But it all goes back to, okay, I'm 10 years old. The only person paying attention to me, if I'm not getting a gold star, which is the line in Little Girl, give her another gold star hanging on her heavy wall. It's like they loved me, but they had a lot on their plate. You know, Dad was at school every night. Mom was circuit court clerk in a small town. I was in everything. We were at school every night, and I babysat for my sister and brother-in-law, who was feeding me grape juice and gin, who was turning me into his best friend. And I'm not saying he's a predator who did this on purpose. I'm saying we live in a rape culture that sets people up. He wasn't happy with my sister, and there I was. And even though I was a little child, by the time I was 14, he decided I was sexually available. Okay. Whew. The inner rim part that I hate to talk about. Okay, so after my sister married him, and he was nice to me, then he wanted to go, he's like, you want to go ride on the motorcycle? Sure. You want to go ride in the Bronco? That's fun, because he would like drive off the road and drive around the fields outside of my hometown. And it was fun. You know, I'm an adolescent. And at some point that I don't recall exactly, that turned into getting stuck in the mud and then having someone's finger up my vagina and forcing me onto their dick, you know, like orally. And this just kept going for years. It just, anytime he could get me alone. And then his cousin, who was married, you know, I don't know, I could get sued for this, but he freaking owned the bakery in town. He was married. He had a whole bunch of children. He raped me. He wouldn't let me go. I begged him to let me go. He had me pinned in a basement by the lake at some friend of his house and raped me at 19 years old. It just perpetuates. So I'm jumping around, but again, it gets really jumbled. It's really hard for me to go through it consistently, and I get really upset. But I do know now, after doing, here, let's go to this. This is my breakthrough cognitive behavioral therapy notebook. This is when I didn't know, I was like, I don't know what to write. And talk therapy doesn't work. As I talked about yesterday, talk therapy is terrible for people with CPTSD because it just makes you relive it over and over. You've got to put it into an art. You've got to draw it or write it and then read it, because that takes it from the fight or flight jumble center of memories and puts it in the hippocampus where you can review it. You can give it anthropological, historical context. You can say, I'm part of a group of people this happened to, instead of just wallowing in it all the time or burying it in your gut. And that's what I have spent a lifetime doing. Trying to be perfect, swallowing my pain and my memories into my heart and my gut. And when they come out, I'm insane. And I'm, that rabbit hole of crazy feels so much better than thought. But that's because we're only thinking with our fight or flight. Draw it or write it, and you will then be able to process it. So here's mine. My first memory was, okay, I liked him. I even dreamed of marrying him. He said I was a better mother than my sister. By the time I was 12 or 13, he was telling me I was a better mother to my niece and nephew than my sister. I don't even have a relationship with them anymore, but I considered them my children. I thought, at that point, having been groomed and then raped, I had to make it make sense. So my sister, she was like, you ran away to their house. And this is the part I've never written about or explained, and I'm going to get there now. Why I ran away to my abusers, assaulters' home. So, here, he's got a carport, he's working on his Camaro. I'm fun, I'm smiling, I'm happy, right? I'm not a great artist. These were just sketches done, and the odd thing, I didn't even notice, but my counselor said, did you see how you put a mask on yourself? I did not, but I put a mask on myself, and I'm like, okay, this is my memory. I remember him. I don't know who the other person is, but I know there's somebody that assaulted me when they'd get me drunk, and they would come in to the bedroom and just do things to me, and I would just go away. And the problem with that, as I've talked about at length, is that when you become a grown-up, you go away when you don't want to. You go away with people you love. You go away with your husband, your spouse, your partner. Because, even when you want to be there, you go away. And I've learned how to not do that. But you can't not do that with just anybody. You have to learn that your self-respect comes first and your wishes and desires come first. So please review yesterday, and especially the D week and the A week. You have to ask for what you want in this life. So go back, it's all on YouTube, and it'll be better. So here we are, we're drinking grape juice and gin. I drew myself with a mask on, unknowingly to myself. This Facebook quality is terrible, and my hair is obviously also. So I will put the TikTok one on Facebook. TikTok evidently has better built-in filters. I'm deflecting because I'm about to freak out, okay? I say I don't want to do this. It does not feel good. My crotch feels weird and tingly. And he's saying that feels good, doesn't it? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. But it did become a way of life. And I'm going to skip that fast because this is really painful. And then I show him full on in my pants where, and this is these are the drawings, and I suck as an artist, but I'm just saying, this told me, finally, that I was the victim. I wasn't a participant. I didn't kick and scream. So back to the top of this. Consent isn't about whether you kicked or screamed. It's about whether you were tricked or bought or sold. There's a whole lot more to it, and we need to legislate it. So, life story, here we were. So by the 10 or 11, we're friends. By 12, he's touching me and making me touch him inappropriately. The worst thing, though, he wasn't the first one who raped me. I was staying at my sister and brother-in-law's house, babysitting their kids in the summer in Jefferson City. And I wish I could find him. His name is Brent something, and he was a medical student, and he raped and sodomized me in the basement when I was 14 years old. And when my brother-in-law found out, he started raping me too, instead of going after his friend. And that was it from then on out. That's when I started trying to pretend like I'm a better mother. But it was so sick. It was so crazy. So So yeah, I'm at home. I'm 16 years old. I went on a band trip. I've been masking. I've been exceeding. I've been a senior scout. I'm a senior Girl Scout, like going to help run Girl Scout camps. I was a volunteer candy striper. You know, like I said, honor society, first seat, flute, tumbling team, 8-year cheerleader. It was just, you know. But I hated myself. And my junior year, I went from a size 11 to a size 3. And the pep club wouldn't let me on the bus finally. They said that they were going to throw me off the cheerleading squad if I didn't eat something right there. And I started to eat because I didn't want to be thrown off the cheerleading squad. But these are the kind of red flags that were missed. A girl doesn't go from a size 11 to a size 3. I decided to quit eating. And I did. If you see these signs in someone, you need to act. You need to act. Don't assume they're just a teenager that's mixed up. It's like, yes, they're a teenager that's mixed up, but there's a reason, like Oprah says. Ask not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. So we went on this band trip to the Cotton Bowl in Memphis, and some actual friends of mine. My dad was the principal, and the superintendent's son, Mike Boger, and Ward Franz, also a friend. Good people to this day, friends to this day. But they got in my purse to take something while I was in a fast food restaurant on the way to the Cotton Bowl. And they found a bunch of pills. And it was White Cross my sister had given me. Because I thought it was fat, you know. So again, junior year, I'm losing all this weight. My sister's giving me White Cross. From her and the brother-in-law that was assaulting me had an open relationship. So when I went to Jeff City, he was screwing his best friend's wife in a trailer park down the road while his best friend was working on another nuclear plant in another state. And my sister was screwing both my boyfriend, because I walked in on them tripping acid and naked in bed together in their underwear. Give me a break. We were just hot. It's like, come on. So that's when I tried to kill myself. So I was 16. I had run away. I'm in Holt Summit outside of Jeff City. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I couldn't tell how fucked everything was. I ran away not because I wanted to be with my brother-in-law, but because it was better than telling my parents I was dirty, filthy scum who had been having gross sex with my brother-in-law and his married cousin and whoever else they drugged me into. And for years. So I need a moment. Those who say I'm making it up. Someone needs to hire me. I'm a pretty fucking good actress. Okay. So, I'm 16. I've run away to my sister and brother-in-law's house. My sister's boyfriend is a drug dealer who got busted with handguns and a bunch of kilos of cocaine. It's in the Jefferson City newspaper. You can read it. And Gary something, I can't remember his last name, but she was third on the subpoena list and I was 23rd because I was babysitting his kids. And I was terrified at this point. And then my dad, I moved out. I at this point, I ran away. I'm 16. I got a boyfriend. I got away from my brother-in-law and my sister. I'm living down the road. And I then get set up and hear that my boyfriend is, cheating on me with another girl. And then I walk in to confront him and find him in bed with my sister, tripping on acid, almost naked. So I did the logical thing and I went back to my apartment with him that he was not at, and I took 9 pills, a mixture of Valium, Darvon, and Percocet, Quaaludes, and I waited till they were kicking in, and then I took a pocket knife, which is not the right kind of knife, but I didn't have a lot of knives. 16 years old with a little one-room efficiency. And so I slashed my wrist. I've still got the scar. I don't know if you can see it on there. Side to side. Turns out you need to go this way to die, so I'm glad I did it wrong. Good thing there wasn't YouTube back then, because I'm usually pretty thorough. And I went out and laid down in the highway in front of, on the Holt Summit, the road, like if you leave in Jefferson City, then there's the road that goes to Holt Summit. It's just like a 2-lane, or it used to be probably 4-lane now. It was a long time ago. But I laid down, and the next car that was coming were people. This is why I think the universe provides and the ancestors really interact. The next car that was coming were, I call them friends, but not really. As the only person, the only 16-year-old with their own place that you could do drugs and party in, I had any number of people there that were not my friends at all. But they were turning into my driveway, and they saw me laying in the highway, bleeding it from the wrist. And I woke up on my own kitchen floor and continued on. So another thing that had happened right before that was my friend died in a car wreck. He took his girlfriend home, and then he drove into a tree. And he was like the only friend I was really close to that I had a real, not lover, I mean, nothing like that. So I enrolled in college at Mizzou, but I didn't have any money for it, and I'd run away from home, and, you know, my mom cried and cried when I went. Here's where my dad went wrong. Yeah, my dad's got fault. He's a wonderful person in a lot of ways, but he thought he's like tough, you know, go to hell your own way kind of thing. So when I ran away, a week later, he's like, when are you going to come get your stuff? He didn't say, I'm going to come get you. He said, when are you going to come get your stuff? And I did. And that didn't work out so well. That wasn't the best plan. So, I learned, as I've talked about at length, go back through the other things, I've talked at length about how it affects me as an adult, how I didn't even know that I dissociated from sex, except that I literally, when I try to remember, like, I've been married and divorced 3 times, and I can't remember a physical encounter with them, like, in a sensual way. But my husband that I got together with after getting myself together, getting my self-respect together, and demanding to have what I wanted in life and to heal myself, then I was able to bring my authentic self to the table for the first time. And that's what I teach people to do. But now I also am going to work for the Consent Action Network, and I'm telling you that I wasn't kicking and screaming. I went through phases of, I'm going to try to be in love with you. I'm going to try to get away with you. I've dreamed of putting acid on his steering wheel and killing him. I've dreamed of killing him for so long that I finally gave up, because I finally came around through my own cognitive behavioral therapy to understanding that he is also, brace yourself, a victim of a rape culture, a victim of a society whose language sets little girls up to be sexualized, and a victim of timing and placement where his wife was messed up and he found me available instead of being my mentor. So I'm not giving him a pass. I'm still pissed. I'm still calling him out, and I'll still sue him if I can, if and when. But I didn't have the ability. It never occurred to me to kick or scream or say no. And then I learned patterns of avoidance. I tried to not ever be in a sexual relationship with someone, but if I got trapped or cornered, I didn't know how to say no. I didn't know no was a thing. So if you get cornered, the way out is through. And that sucks. So, technically, this is the last day and we're talking about spirit. But after talking with Joyce Short from the Consent Action Network. She told me it's very important that I explain to people my own situation and why I do what I do, why I founded Sweet Survivor, why the Sweet Shopping Group exists, why the book's coming out, and why I advocate for change. It's because if we don't change the laws to understand how people are trafficked and groomed, then everything's going to be considered consent unless you're kicking and screaming. And as I explained at length earlier, and will not go into again, that's not okay. That's not fair. That's not reality. So I don't think I need to walk you through all of my marriages. I just wanted to walk you through where I got. I will say, though, that it was marriage counseling that guided me into sexual assault counseling. And when I added in the knowledge that I have Asperger's and that children with Asperger's are particularly vulnerable, all of that, instead of being depressing, freed me. It gave me tools to work with. It's like I was saying about, you've got to get the jumbled up mess out of your heart and your gut and your amygdala, and you've got to get stuff you can read, you can process, you can write about, you can talk about. And the way to do that is to go through the SPADES program. That's what I'm saying. And you don't have to take antidepressants and go through all these therapies and drugs. Don't stop. I'm not a doctor. You can't stop things without doing it slowly. But I do not believe anybody with CPTSD needs an antidepressant. I think it is hurting you. I think the medical establishment, and I've got a lot of company here, wants to keep you looping in costly therapy and drugs that don't do anything, when all you need to do is reprogram your mind, and it only takes a couple of sessions. And you know how much I cost? I'm free. I'm free. I hope to make money with my books, enough to keep going. Sweet Survivor. It's all about getting the word out there. Please buy from the Sweet Shopping Group. We're being like kind of overlooked because I quit advertising for Feel Good Fair Trade. I gave it to my son, actually, because he created it, as I said earlier. I will talk to you tomorrow for the weekend warm-up, all right? When I remind you, you don't have to have sex unless you want to, and why. We'll talk about that tomorrow. CPTSD. It's very, very common. You can get over it. I encourage you not to drug your life away. At least message me and talk to me, okay? And report any suspicious activity to THORN. And if you're in trouble now, RAINN, 1-800-656-4673. 656-4673.